They are business leaders, experts in economy, society, and culture. In 15 minutes, their insights will create a vivid picture of Vietnam. Sharing Vietnam, the country as you see it.
Hello everyone, and you are watching Sharing Vietnam on NETVIET VTC10. For today's program, we chose rice production and food security in Vietnam as our topic. So let's say hello to the guest that we invited to our studio today, Mr. Stephen Jeffrey, the Rural Development Sector Coordinator of World Bank in Vietnam. Hello, Mr. Stephen, and thank you so much for taking your time and joining our talk show today.
Glad to be here.
Vietnam has been considered a successful story in relation to rice products. So do you agree with this analysis? And has Vietnam really solved all the problems with the food security challenge?
Well, Vietnam's rice production story is quite remarkable. Over the last 2 decades, sort of steady productivity growth, increased intensification of production. So the curve, it's constantly going up in terms of production. And it's fairly unique in that regard amongst developing countries. And so in terms of overall, the country's gone from being deficit to producing the largest number of calories per person almost in the developing world. That being said, the country still has food and nutrition issues. You still have a high rate of malnutrition amongst young children. So the issues isn't so much about the volume of production, it's about what people are eating. The balanced diet, also the health of children, safe water access. So there are still many challenges related to food and nutrition, not necessarily solvable by, say, producing more rice, but it's more multi-sectoral approach. Social safety nets, secondary food crops, and dealing with poverty. Those are sort of the issues to deal with a more balanced diet.
So up to now, what do you think about the competitiveness of the food product of Vietnam?
Vietnam competes generally on the basis of cost in rice and other commodities. It competes at sort of the lower ends of the quality spectrum and has done very well. Costs are rising, though. The cost of labor goes up. There's different uses of labor, of water, of land. And so competing at that low cost level is more difficult over time. So it's partly about repositioning in agriculture, at least in terms of exports, where the country will be and compete in the future.
Thanks, Mr. Stephen, for the very first sharing today.
Okay.
Thank you. And now will be the clip to give you more information about the competitiveness of the Vietnamese rice.
Vietnamese rice has been on the major market in Southeast Asia and the difficult markets such as EU, the USA, and Japan. In addition, the African region, the Middle East, and Latin America are also the potential market for Vietnamese rice. Currently, Vietnamese rice is under competitive pressures not only in the international market but also the domestic market. The advantage of low labor costs is gradually lost in the process of economic growth as well as international economic integration. Therefore, improving the competitiveness of Vietnamese rice become a critical issue. In order to do this, we need to focus on the issue of quality, price, and distribution channel, and above all, the brand for Vietnamese rice.
Hello everyone, and you are watching Sharing Vietnam. So what do you think about the issue of rice production under the international standards?
Well, international standards aren't widely applied for a commodity like rice. Vietnam has its own standard, its Viet Gap standard, which is really about reducing input costs and reducing, say, having more efficient use of water. And that standard, if more widely applied, would be very beneficial. Not only would have less environmental impact, but it would drive down the costs that farmers face. And ultimately, that's, we were talking earlier about sustainability. That combination will allow farmers to continue growing rice, for the country to compete. And so it's this promotion of these sustainable practices which are critical. Whether or not it's global standards, it's not that important for rice.
So do you think that it is a good idea for Vietnam to develop the area that we should specialize in the rice production?
Well, actually, a good place to start with this sustainable rice system is in specialized growing areas where farmers are doing multiple crops. You have parts of the Mekong Delta where they're doing 3 crops or certainly 2 crops in other areas. It's in those areas where farmers are more highly specialized that focus on the sustainable production is most important.
So can you list what are the weakest links or stage in the rice supply chain that Vietnam need to be improved in the future?
Well, I think at the production level, there's not a lot of cooperation that goes on between farmers. Every farmer has a small plot, and so there is need for more cooperation in hiring tractors, in doing the sort of mechanized harvesting, in doing drying and storage. So there's a lot of scope there, because there you can drive down your sort of production losses, post-harvest losses. There's also relatively little direct relationship between farmers and the millers. There's all kinds of intermediaries in between. And with this, you can't get sort of promotion of better quality, because farmers aren't rewarded for producing better quality. So there needs to be more effort to more directly link the millers with farmers. They'll introduce particular varieties. They'll probably pay a better price. And I think also there's a lot of wastage. There's a lot of the rice husks aren't used. They're burned. They could be used for energy. They could be used for animal feed. Some of them now are burnt or dumped into the river. So it's an environmental cost, and it's actually an asset that's lost.
Thank you so much for that sharing. And here will be a clip to give you more information about the border issues in Vietnamese agriculture.
Agriculture plays an important role in the economic growth and social stability of Vietnam. In 2011, in the context of the slowed up Vietnam economic growth, together with many uncertainties, agriculture has still achieved the growth rate of 4% and created the exporting value of $25 billion. Especially at the World Economic Forum in Davos in January 2012, the achievement of agricultural development in Vietnam has been highly regarded by the international friends, and it is considered a typical model of agricultural development in the developing countries. However, in 2012, the agriculture is projected to face many challenges. In the context of current gloomy economy, along with the appearance of new competitors, the export of agricultural products in Vietnam will not be as easy, convenient as before. Besides, we also face the matter of decline in agricultural land as well as the weakness in attracting investment into this area.
Hello everyone and welcome back. Mr. Steve, one question that we would love to raise for you is how would you link these issues about the rise to border challenges associated with agricultural and rural development in Vietnam?
Well, I think the challenges that the rice sector faces actually are similar to what we see in coffee and aquaculture. I mean, the issues about using more efficient use of the resources, having limited environmental damage, and managing quality. There's other linkages, though. I mean, to the extent to which government continues to invest heavily in expanding rice output, that's money that it's not investing in other things, in the ag research system, and in other commodities. So there is a connection between trying to continue expanding rice and not being able to modernize other parts of the sector. And I think also there's a connection on land. The extent to which, again, some of the land is sort of designated as rice land, and farmers have restrictions on using that for other purposes. That prevents a flexible agriculture. That prevents, given changes in prices, farmers shifting between rice and other crops. It's understandable government doesn't want to see rice land converted into industrial parks, or at least not at a fast pace. But within agriculture, where you can shift back and forth, this should be encouraging farmers to diversify their production as the opportunities are available.
So what do you think about the opportunities, the biggest one that Vietnam expects to be available to the agricultural sector and also to the rural people in Vietnam?
Yeah, well, I think the domestic market is quite exciting. Traditionally, the focus is on maximizing exports, but a population of expanding middle-class people want to eat everything, and they're eating all the time. So the demand for meat and fish and fruits and vegetables is growing very fast. So this presents huge opportunities for farmers and small companies and retailers and restaurant owners. So I think there's a big growth in that whole domestic market area in the next 5-10 years. Another big opportunity is adding value. Vietnam exports a lot of commodities that people in other countries get wealthy from. A lot of raw materials go to southern China that are then manufactured into a lot of things. So it's attracting investment to do agro-industry here. There's a big opportunity here. And for the rural population, I think Vietnam's geography creates a chance that people can work in and out of agriculture without packing up and moving. Almost, with the exception of some very remote areas, most people live within, 30, 50 kilometers of a major town, of an industrial area. So there is a possibility that families can remain intact in upgraded rural areas. The young people get on the motorbike, they ride to their job, and they come back at night. So without having sort of massive movements of people from rural to urban areas, you can still industrialize in this country without that upheaval, that social break. And so I think there's a lot of opportunity for young people to be trained and skilled in construction, in all kinds of skilled areas. And parts of their family remain farming and parts of them doing industry and other services.
Once again, thank you so much for taking your time and joining our talk show today.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for your watching today. And if you have any question or recommendation, please send us an email at sharingvietnam@gmail.com. We will see you next time.
Cảm ơn ông Steven J. Phi với những chia sẻ hết sức thú vị vừa rồi. Tiếp theo chương trình, mời quý vị cùng gặp lại biên tập viên Khánh Long với câu chuyện hội nhập của ngày hôm nay của sản phẩm thêu Việt Nam.
Cảm ơn biên tập viên Mai Phương. Quý vị và các bạn thân mến, trong tiểu mục Việt Nam hội nhập và phát triển bền vững của ngày hôm nay, chúng ta sẽ đến với câu chuyện của hai doanh nghiệp thêu đã bước đầu thành công trong xuất khẩu sản phẩm thêu ra quốc tế. Câu chuyện cụ thể sẽ có ngay sau đây.